Welcome, everybody. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report. Thank you, Ginger. I saw that. You even beat me to it. Thank you for that. Let me get TikTok going here, and we shall begin. All right, I got to figure this out. TikTok, there we go. I'm learning the new TikTok layout. There we go. All right, boom. Boom. All right, TikTokers, join us. Hey, everybody. Friday. Exciting. Oh, have a little bit of water while I'm waiting. I'll take out my chapstick, the whole deal. Anyway, do the usual hellos, folks, if you would. Just say where you're hailing from. Hey, Ron. Hey, the TikTokers are flying in now. As always, we take about a minute just to hang out and wait for folks to arrive to get the notice. Hello, TikTokers, YouTubers, Twitchers, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure. Oh, hey, everybody. All right. Pretty decently full news day, I would say. Some good stuff going on, too. Some fundraisers we're doing, which I want to tell you about, which will be very cool. Excuse me. So, yes, John D., I posted a quick little thing on Discord because it was making me think. I just happened to read about your town and why you had the electrical outage today. They hit you guys pretty hard today. Yes, we're not going to talk Elon today. No Elon today. We're going to talk about Ukrainian kids and Christmas. And obviously, there's not exactly a lot of good news because, we are talking war today, folks. But, all right, another quick half minute or so or less, and then I will dive right in. All right. All right, I can get started. So welcome, everybody. This is John Aravosis with the Aravosis Report, my daily show Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine and then walk you guys through what I think matters. Thank you, South Yorks, for that. And then we do the question and answer at the end for about the second half of the show. On TikTok, you can submit questions whenever you want or comments. Use the Q&A link in my profile. The rest of you on my laptop for YouTube and everything else. Obviously, the comment box at the bottom. If you guys want to support my work, and I would appreciate it because I am doing this full time and I'm doing it for free. It's only your guys. Thank you, Sig Sauer, for example, on TikTok. I was just going to say the TikTok gifts are very helpful. Thank you guys for that. Gifts on YouTube as well, super chat, etc. I appreciate. Let me tell you one thing we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but just a teaser. We're doing a fundraiser now to buy Christmas gifts, and actually in Ukraine, they're actually New Year's gifts for kids for the holidays. $15 a kid. You go to my profile on TikTok, click it, the link in the profile link tree. It'll first thing that comes up will be it. Thank you for today. For you guys, the same thing. Actually, you can go to aravosis.com if you want. Actually, what I'll do is I'll put Vlad's email. As always, we're using my friend Vlad as the conduit. And I'll tell you more about it in a second, but you can go to my link on TikTok, click it, you'll figure it out. Or aravosis.com if the mods want to keep posting that. That's probably the easiest thing. All right, guys. Or you can post Vlad's PayPal as well if you want. And don't post Vlad's PayPal. TikTok may get upset about that. Okay, let's get rolling. So the other thing is I have a subscriber-only chat tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I'll do for the TikTok subscribers, the paid subscribers. So join us then 10 a.m. Central Time U.S. That's 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll talk about that in a minute, too, if you want. All right, so another big day of airstrikes against Ukraine. The Russians kind of went nuts today. It was one of the sort of their biggest attacks. They shot at least 76 missiles against Kyiv, I think. I think it was just against Kyiv, the capital, were the 76 missiles. 60 were shot down, which is great, but it means 16 got through, caused a lot of damage as always. As usual, the Russians keep going after civilian targets, electricity, water, things like that. The Sky News says that a number of experts are getting concerned, and actually this goes hand in hand with what the Ukrainians have been saying, and I've been talking about the last few days. The experts are getting worried. Thank you, Manda Bear. The experts are getting worried that the Russians may actually be preparing to invade Kyiv again. I will take out my handy-dandy T-shirt map and show you. So, first days of the war, February 24th, the Russians invade, okay? Now, the Russians came down from a number of points. They this is Russia, okay? So this over here is Russia, and then over here. Russia is also huge, like 11 time zones. So as you can imagine, Russia goes like way over, right, and way north. But for our purposes, for Ukraine, Russia's over here. Belarus right here is a Russian ally run by a dictator, and then you got Poland, other NATO countries over here, okay? So when the Russians invade, they come down through Belarus, they come down here through northern Ukraine, Kyiv, they come over here to Kharkiv, they come over here in the east, and they come up here via Crimea. Okay, Crimea is the territory the Russians stole in 2014. So you've got like 4 or 5 different fronts the Russians were running, but one of the most important ones is they came through Belarus, their little dictatorship that they kind of control next to them here. Well, what happened was within, a couple of weeks or whatever, or even a week, I would say, the Russians had made a lot of progress north here of Kyiv, around here north of Kharkiv. Well, the Ukrainians started pushing back like crazy. And as we know, the Ukrainians basically forced the Russians within 1 month out of northern Ukraine altogether. I mean, pushed them back into Kyiv, back into Russia, back into Belarus. So that was great. The concern is that the Russians, thank you, Purnell. I was curious there's a funny little reindeer antlers on TikTok, and I was always curious what those looked like. So thank you for putting those up there. Anyway, as I was saying, talking about Belarus, so the concern that a lot of folks are having now is whether the Russians actually think they're going to invade again from the north. Let me give you sort of a couple different things here. So, former NATO Deputy Supreme Allied Commander. Okay, that's just like way too many words. Basically, the number 2 general in NATO. Okay, the number 1 general is always an American. In this case, I'm assuming he's a Brit. General Sir Richard Sheriff, got to be a Brit. He says, I think, oops, my dog's whining. I think the difference is that up to now, it's been designed, meaning the Russian air attacks on Ukraine have been designed to break civilian morale, which it won't do while the Russians have stalled. But given the intelligence and the briefings that we are receiving, so what he's saying here, thank you, Big King, what he's saying here is based on the intelligence briefings he's getting and the NATO allies are getting, back to his quote, it could well be part, this attack on Kyiv and everything else, it could well be part of the precursor to a major Russian offensive. So what's interesting about this is, up until now, we've heard the Ukrainians over the last week talk about how they are increasingly concerned that Russia may try to invade again from the north. Now, actually, one thing I didn't show you is where the Russians are right now, okay? So remember, the Russians came down from the north. They also had some land around here, The Ukrainians pushed the Russians out 100%, all of this. Now where the Russians are is, here, I'm going to sort of show you with my hands, but here, and here. So everywhere from the red side, this, okay? And the big fighting is going on around here in Kherson, at least at the moment, okay? The concern is that the Russians may try to come through Belarus again, which, as I said, is all the way up here, which would be coming down this way. Now, as we've talked about before, Belarus itself doesn't have much of a military. They're not very good and they're not very big. It wouldn't pose much of a threat to Ukraine. But if the Ukrainians thought the Belarusians were going to invade, they would have to put some troops there because even 50,000 really bad Belarusian troops are still troops, right? So the Ukrainians would have to have something up here. Now, the other issue is this could still be a Russian plot, a Russian feint, meaning a bluff, because, and I've told you guys this before, if most of the fighting is going on over here and over here, if you were the Russians, wouldn't you love to just force the Ukrainians to move a bunch of troops up here just in case to prepare for an invasion that never happens, right? I mean, it's a great way to basically waste Ukrainian troops who should be down here fighting, maybe here getting ready for a new offensive to take Melitopol. But if the Ukraine has to put more troops up here just in case, they're troops who are wasted. So it's still possible the Russians are screwing around, but it is certainly concerning that the number 2 general in NATO, thank you, Patty and Louie, the number 2 general in NATO is saying that he's worried about a possible Russian invasion coming down to Kyiv. Now, the Ukrainians have been warning this, as I said, for about a week. Let me get here. Oh, hello. Thank you. Oh, that's a new one. I don't think I've seen that one. The corgi thing is very big on TikTok. It always kind of makes me laugh. I don't know why. That was cool, though. Thank you. Oh, yes. So Ukrainian Major General Kovalchuk, who's one of the most senior military officials, said that if the Russians invade, they could invade with several 100,000 up to 1 million men themselves, maybe even millions. The Ukrainians then would have to call up a million or more men and women, because in Ukraine's case, 20% of the military is women, very equal opportunity military in Ukraine. It could be a big deal. I mean, we're talking, the war is bad enough right now, but if you get a million Russians fighting and a million Ukrainians fighting, it could be a real mess, right? Up to date, the initial invasion, at least, you had about 160,000 to 190,000 Russians. So a million would be a hell of a lot more. Thank you, Inspired Woman, for that. Final little quote to give you. The New York Times also was citing an Economist interview today. Thank you, Allie, for that. Ukraine's Supreme Military Commander, General Valery Zaluzhny, says that Ukraine has been training and outfitting reserves to defend against a new Russian offensive. Quote, he says, which may take place in February, at best in March. So the thinking from the Ukrainians right now is that this invasion from the Russians from the north is going to happen around the time of the anniversary of the original invasion, something like February 24th, of course, but certainly by the beginning of March, he thinks. And at worst, the end of January. So it could even happen in early January, the end of January. The Russians are preparing some 200,000 fresh troops, he told The Economist. I have no doubt they will make another go at Kyiv. So, again, something to keep an eye on. You know, this kind of stuff worries me because we have done a lot to help the Ukrainians, right? We've given a lot of weapons and a lot of offensive weapons, meaning not just defensive weapons they can take the fight to the Russians. And they've developed delivered a lot of pain to the Russians with the weapons we've given them. But we are worrying far too much about whether we make Vladimir Putin mad. And even now with the Patriot missiles we're giving Ukraine, they're defensive weapons. They're missiles that are meant to shoot down missiles, okay? They are, thank you, Wanda, for that. We are being very careful about the weapons we give them that would actually be able to take out Russian troops. Now, we've given them some of these weapons, but a lot of them, like the longer range missiles, we won't give them, right? For example, the Iranians, it looks like, according to our intelligence, the Iranians are selling the Russians new missiles that can go 200 miles a distance or 300 kilometers. Well, guess what? Guess what we're not doing? We've got missiles that can go that distance. Oh, thank you, Addie. And who was the other one there? Addie. Oh, there was somebody. I thought there was another gift from somebody else. Maybe it was just Addie. We've got missiles that can go that far, but we're not giving them to Ukraine, and we're refusing to give them to Ukraine. And they're perfect for the HIMARS, which we've been giving them. So while Iran is giving Ukraine the missiles that go far, we won't, because we don't want to make Putin angry. Why is Iran doing it? Iran wants to make money, pretty much. I think Iran just wants to make money, and it doesn't hurt Iran to have Russia as a benefactor or as a client. Thank you, Annie, for the hat there. So let me tell you about the Christmas gifts really quick, guys. We're going to continue with the news for a second, but I started a new fundraiser today to buy Christmas gifts for Ukrainian kids. Now, the big holiday in Ukraine is actually New Year's in terms of kids getting gifts. So we're going to be raising the money for the next week. And then the nonprofit we're working with, Harkovu Mir, which is in Kharkiv, is going to be buying the gifts and distributing them. We need $15 per kid. That's the goal. And they're looking at buying actual gift sets. And I was like, what's a gift set? Basically like, a box that has some toys inside, some candy inside, all this different kind of cute Christmassy St. Nicholas kind of thing, right? You can go to my profile if you want. Thank you, Happy, for that. On TikTok, go to my profile, the link in my profile that says Linktree, click it. And the very first thing that comes up will tell you the PayPal address to send the money to. This is my friend Vlad, who we've been working with now throughout the whole war. We've raised $80,000 in support from you guys for humanitarian aid in Ukraine. I have not taken a dollar of that. Literally 100% of the money goes to Ukraine, and we are doing the same thing this time. So you can trust sending the money to Vlad. I mean, he's the same guy we've been using the whole time, and it, the money's going there. As I said, $15 a kid. I think it would be really neat if you could help, if you can, if you can. Why? Because it's Christmas. That's why. And these are kids. Oh, and especially they're focusing on, thank you, El. Especially we're focusing on getting the gifts for kids who are vulnerable. In other words, kids who have lost their parents, kids who have lost another family member, kids with disabilities. So those are the kids who are going to be helped first with this. Looking to help 2,000 kids, but that's a lot of money with $15 a kid. But whatever you guys are able to give, thank you, Louis, we will do. So you all have got Vlad's number there on the page. So thank you for that. And John, thank you for that. Oh, you're great. All right, I will move it over. Although, actually, you guys could do it through here if you want. I'll have to move it over myself, doing it through YouTube, just so you know, because I've got to add it up, or I'm gonna screw up. I appreciate that, but I would still say PayPal is easier, because then I know the money for sure is going to Vlad. Otherwise, if you guys all do it on YouTube, it's going to confuse me. But having said that, thank you. That was crazy generous of you. I promise you, I will send the money to Vlad as soon as we get off. So there you go, guys. So if you can, please do it on go to my aravosis.com or the link in my profile on TikTok, and you will see how to donate. You'll see Vlad's, thank you, W. Reich. You'll see Vlad's PayPal account. All right, let me move on here. So Vladimir Putin and Belarusian leader Lukashenko are meeting actually for a summit next week, just adding to some of the concerns about whether there's some kind of a plot going on. Who knows? In a separate story, but interesting. According to Sky News, a senior member, this is an interesting story also because the quote that they give is hilarious, okay? A senior member of the Russian Wagner group has been injured in a parcel bomb attack, so basically like a mail bomb. The head of the mercenary group has accused France of attempting to assassinate the member, Dmitry Siti or whatever. The Russian embassy in the Central African Republic, where the attack took place, this is all from Sky News, said Mr. Siti had suffered serious injuries when the package exploded. Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's a Russian billionaire, corrupt billionaire, oligarch, as we call them, who is the person behind the Wagner group. The Wagner group, by the way, I should have said, is the mercenary group. They're the big mercenary group that the Russians use, basically paid killers, and they're horrible. I mean, the Russian troops commit war crimes anyway, but even worse, the war crimes these guys commit, okay? So Prigozhin says about the mail bomb that one of his guys receives, listen to this. Listen to this quote. Okay, this is where I tell you about how badly the Russians lie, and I don't mean badly and they do it a lot, because they do it a lot, how poorly the Russians lie. Listen to this quote from Prigozhin, blaming the Russians. Before losing consciousness, Dmitry managed to say, I saw a note. This is for you from all the French. The Russians will get out of Africa. I mean, first of all, do you really, first of all, like, what kind of a person, only a Russian would write a note like that? I mean, like a Frenchman's going to write, before he lost consciousness. Couldn't you see, like Scarlett O'Hara here? Before he lost consciousness, I saw a note. This is for you from all the French. First of all, the French aren't going to do that. The French are going to put a note there and say, I don't know, this is for you from all the Germans, the French would say, right? The French aren't going to take credit themselves for a bomb. The Russians need to get out of Africa. I mean, I joke about saying it's the Germans. You're not going to take credit for it. You're just not going to take credit for it. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it made me laugh. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report, my daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about all the latest news from Ukraine. Please keep the gifts coming, and also keep the contributions coming for that kids fundraiser we're doing. You can go to aravosis.com and see the quick little description of what we're doing there for raising money for Christmas gifts for the kids in Ukraine. And you can also go to my Patreon if you want. I've got a Patreon set up. Thank you, Deadike. Appreciate the meteor shower. I've got a Patreon account set up where you can go, and if you want to, if you've been watching my show for a few months and you like it, maybe go set up a $5 a month donation if you can, in the spirit of the holidays. You can find that at patreon.com/Aravosis, or again, just go to aravosis.com, which is my last name.com, and it'll take you to all of my links, including the kids fundraiser right at the top. Okay. All right, let's keep going here, and do subscribe on TikTok if you would, and on YouTube. So another bomb. The Ukrainian defenders have been busy here. Vitaly Bulyuk, the Russian-appointed first deputy governor of Kherson. Now, I don't remember if I mentioned this guy the other day or not. There have been so many bombs going off lately that I'm not too sure. But he was involved in a car explosion. I love the way that's even said, a car explosion. TASS, which is the Russian news outlet, reports that Bulyuk has been injured in a car explosion. He is wounded. His condition is stable, of moderate severity. Now, the Ukrainians, this is in Kherson. The Ukrainians I would say in Kherson, most of all the territories that the Russians have been occupying, Kherson is this territory here. It's the territory where the Russians pushed the Ukrainians. It's this Ukrainian territory here. It's the territory where the Ukrainians pushed the Russians below the river. The Russians were all the way up here. The Ukrainians pushed them south of the river now, but the Ukrainians still want to get the rest of the territory. This territory has, from what I've heard in the news, probably had the most number of bombings of the river. Good question. Who controls the river? I don't think anybody really controls the river at the moment. Okay, fair enough. You know what? Carlos, you guys are being really good. All right, I will say this. If you guys want to make donations for the kids on YouTube, go ahead. Just say it's for the kids. And probably the best thing you can do is if one of the moderators, maybe Roshan or somebody who's there, could you just take notes on how much each person's giving? Because then at the end of the show, I can tally it up because I don't want to get confused. Actually, yeah, I can tally it up and then I still need to check. Okay. I've got to check this because I'm not sure how YouTube even does this. I think I get 75 or 80% of the money. So I'll figure it out. But if you can tally it up, that way I know how much people gave for the kids thing. And because as soon as the show ends, I'm going to lose the whole chat and everything. Well, anyway, it makes it easy if you could do that. But yeah, thank you. That amazing of all of you. So if you want to, Carlos, if you guys want to keep it going for the kids, keep it going. All right, let me keep going. Two people just gave $100 gifts on YouTube. That's why I was taking a second to go over there for the kids that we're raising money for their Christmas gifts. So that's why I took a quick break to say that, because fabulous what they're doing. So thank you all for that. And thank you for the garland there, Big King. All right, let me, so anyway, yeah, so another car bomb going off. Anybody who's watched the show regularly, you know I'm always talking about the car bombs going off in Kherson. And basically the Ukrainians keep blowing up either Russian officials or, in this case, Ukrainians who are collaborating with the Russians. And we say collaborating, we mean basically your town is occupied and you say, you know what? The Russians are occupying my town. I want to help them oppress my own people. So you go and do that. Well, the people who are doing that, the most senior people, keep getting blown up, especially in car bombs. And it's thought to be Ukrainian, actually it is Ukrainian intelligence working with local officials. Now, actually, anybody who really wants to know more about this, the Washington Post reporter who is based in Kyiv, Ukraine, actually wrote a story about this a few weeks ago, sort of a first effort at finding out sort of some of the details of the resistance without giving away any secrets, but she did a really good story on this a few weeks ago. So please do check that out. So yeah, pony up, guys, pony up. Just keep track of it, as I said, because I've got to double check, because I think when you do it on YouTube, YouTube takes a cut, and I just have to calculate that on my own, but I'll figure it out. European Union has approved new sanctions against Russia. This is good. Thank you, Sig Sauer, for the snowman, including its military. This is from the New York Times. The European Union's 27 member countries agreed on Friday to ban exports of drone components to Russia and other countries such as Iran. Okay. This stuff is driving me crazy. And it's not just the European Union. It is America too. Guys, it's almost Christmas. This war started in February. The European Union is only now banning drone parts going to Iran and Russia. Iran has been providing drones for months. So Russia has been using drones from the beginning to attack Ukraine. Why is it only now in December that we're banning this stuff? And again, my country's been doing the same thing. It's not just the Europeans. There is this like, put it this way. Imagine the Russians, like the shoe is on the other foot. Do you think Vladimir Putin would have waited until now to do sanctions? Vladimir Putin would have done them like the first day of the war. I just don't understand why I know there's political reasons for it. And I'm sure it's probably that the Europeans couldn't get their act together because they've got to, the EU has to get, I'm forgetting again, how many countries are in the EU? Is it 27 or something? I mean, maybe some of you Europeans on here or better educated Americans can tell me, but it is 27. It is 27. Yeah. You've got to get all the countries together to agree on this stuff. So it's hard. And I realize that, but my God, my God. Anyway, let me tell you really quick too. I've got a Discord set up. Feel free to check out the Discord. It's discord.aravosis.com. It's a community where we all kind of hang out and chat afterwards, and days that we're not doing the show. I've got a number of auctions going on there, including right now. I've got 2 new auctions today. I put up 2 commemorative stamps we've got from Ukraine. One is the Russian warship "Go F Yourself" stamp or collection of stamps, and the other one is the Kerch Bridge stamp commemorating we assume the Ukrainians blowing up the bridge between down here between Kerch, Crimea, and Russia, which is about 12 miles away here. So those are pretty cool. Go check it out on the Discord. You can go check it out. You could go to discord.aravosis.com, or again, on TikTok, you can go to the link in my profile and click that link. Discord is one of the options. The top thing will be the kids that were raising money for the Christmas gifts. Further on, you'll see the Discord, or just go to discord.aravosis.com for any of you. Discord's free. Thank you, Paramarin, for that. Discord's free. But if you want to become a paying member, you can do that on Patreon, and you can get access to a second auction that's only for paying members, because that way I wanted to at least give paying members a little something extra, who are supporting my work. All right, let's keep going here. So this was fascinating. Okay, 2 more stories to end with. The first is, I'll start with kind of the maybe not funny story, but I was telling you yesterday about a really weird story about the Polish, like the head of the Polish police, right? Like the head of the Polish police having his gift blow up that he got from the Ukrainians. And there was this whole, I was wondering whether this was something that, I was wondering whether this was something that, I was looking at the screen a second here. Whether this was like the Russians slipped a bomb into the gift that was given to the head of the Polish police or something, right? Who knows? Well, what happens was, listen to this, Sky News again. Yesterday, a present given to Poland's police commander-in-chief during a visit to Ukraine exploded at police headquarters in Warsaw. Polish media are now reporting that the present in question was a grenade launcher, and that the commander himself, the head of the police in Poland, accidentally fired it at himself in his office. Oh God. I don't mean to laugh, but first of all, why was this grenade launcher live? What is wrong with people, right? They gave him a grenade launcher that was live, and the idiot fired the grenade launcher because, first of all, again, anybody who's used weapons knows you're supposed to assume it could work. Any case. So it looks like may not have been the Russians. It may have been the Polish head of police being rather silly. The other thing, real quick, I was going to say, actually, Roshan, if you or somebody can just go check on the Discord in the area where it says news from John or whatever. I put up the fundraiser for the kids. I also included Vlad's name as written, because sometimes with PayPal, when you're giving money abroad, it'll ask you for the name of the person you're giving it to. And because of the difficulties of translating Ukrainian into English, Vlad's name, when you write it out, is actually Vladislav. I think it's not Prokofsky with an Y-I at the end, I think. If somebody just wants to check on the Discord and maybe grab a copy, because if I pull it up here, it takes too long because of my bandwidth. But just take a look and see, and just put it up if you would for folks as well, because it sometimes asks for the full name, and then people get worried because it's spelled differently. And I'm like, it's the problem of translating from Ukrainian into English. There's lots of different spellings. Okay, so final story. This is a very interesting story, actually. Okay, sip of water. Listen to this. This is really interesting. So this came from the Washington Post. A new poll conducted by the Chicago Council on Global Affairs and the Moscow-based Levada Center. And Levada is the polling firm you always hear about, okay? It's the polling firm you always hear about when people are talking about polls in Russia. Listen to this. The vast majority of Russians would not support the use of tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Tactical nuclear weapons are small nuclear weapons. I know it sounds silly to talk about big and small nuclear weapons, but just like any other bomb, they come in different sizes. The big ones, really scary. Okay. The small ones, still scary, but the small ones you might use, for example, to blow up I mean, you shouldn't, but you might use it to blow up a factory or something that you really want to wipe out completely, or a military command center, right? Let's say you were attacking the Department of Defense in Washington. Scary. I know I shouldn't even talk about it. It's being from DC, like we're taught to not even like use hypotheticals like that. It's very funny living in DC. But let's say somebody were doing that. They would use a tactical nuke if they were going to use nukes at all because it's small. A big one would be wiping out Washington itself, right? So the idea of a tactical one, now again, we don't want people using these, but the idea of a tactical one is, let's say you do want to wipe out the headquarters, but you don't want to wipe out the entire city because you want to occupy the city. And once a nuke goes off, no one's going to inhabit that land until 30,000 years, or until you do some major reclamation or whatever. So you'd use this small nuke to take out a small area, and then it's contaminated, but maybe it's a smaller area, right? In any case, so the Russians, the vast majority of Russians, would not support the use of tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Listen to this. They found that three quarters of Russians, maybe that's correct. 3/4 of Russians continue to support the war in Ukraine. Now, that's a bad figure. 75% of Russians or so support the war. That's not great. 69% believe the use of nuclear weapons would never be justified. Okay? 69% of Russians say never justified. And listen to this figure too. 23% of Russians said the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine would be justified only if the other side used the nukes first. Only 23%. Only 23% said if somehow the Ukrainians or somebody else used nukes, the Russians could use them too. But only 23%. 69% said never. It doesn't even matter if the other guy uses them. Anyway, I thought that was pretty wild. I thought that was absolutely wild. But it is good because remember what I've been telling you guys about how, actually, this reminds me of something that I had told you guys several months ago, I think. Thank you, Hazel, for that. I was in the Soviet Union back in 1984, February of 1984, and very scary time. The Soviets were very bad people, brutal dictatorship, very scary place to visit, and the one thing that stuck out at me were people were very nice that we met, and we got to meet some people on the street, but the Russians, it's a police state, and the tourist person is almost always with you, so it's very hard to go anywhere not escorted when you were in the Soviet Union, okay? But we're on the bus, and I think like maybe the guide was somewhere on the other side of the bus, but it's a Moscow public bus, and people are crammed together in this bus. Oh, okay. Thank you, Lisa. People are crammed together in the bus. Thank you, great CFI. The way like you see in these in Japan, like the metro in Japan, people are crowded in like this. So you're on the Moscow bus and you're just crowded in. And I'm wearing my American ski jacket, because I had it for like deep winter in France. Thank you, Meg, for that. And it's red, white, and blue. It's not the American flag, but it's red, white, and blue. And I stood out in Russia. I mean, this is the Soviet Union. Nobody had colorful clothing. I mean, maybe the rich elites had colorful clothing. Everybody's clothing was like black and brown. And I'm there in my red, white, and blue jacket with my ski hat on from like France or whatever. And it's like, the cool skinny ski hat, again, colorful. And this literally like 6'3", whatever that is in meters, I don't know. Bottom line is this much taller than me. Okay. Blonde, tall Russian with a big fur hat on and his big warm jacket. And literally he bends to my ear because again, even for them, it was really weird to be seen talking to foreigners, Westerners, let alone Americans, because they could get in trouble. He comes to my ear and I hear the guy say, and he goes, does Mr. Reagan want nuclear war? Does Mr. Reagan want nuclear war? And I was like, first I jumped. You're like, because I mean, you jump because some guy's in your ear, but also you jump because it's like Bela Lugosi is in your, Dracula is in your ear. Does Mr. Reagan want nuclear war? And I turned and I was like, and going through my head right now, I'm like, wow, because again, what's interesting is from his perspective, he's worried that we want nuclear war, right? I mean, that was the interesting thing to me. Exactly. That they were, and Peace on Mars is saying it's good to know they're as scared of nukes as we are. They always were, I think, the people as scared of nukes as we are. And at least this survey is suggesting, this poll is suggesting that the Russian people still don't really want a nuclear war. And these idiots are saying it on TV. But it has me wondering all the times now that these morons are talking about nuclear war on Russian TV in the evenings, and it's always the evening political talk shows. And we've talked about this a lot before, that they talk about nuclear war. It makes me wonder whether it's actually having the opposite effect, that the Russian people really don't want nuclear war, and they're freaked out about nuclear war. I told him no, but I explained to him, I was trying to think, because I was, and I was very conservative back then, although frankly, on foreign policy, I'm still very conservative on defense stuff, like Ukraine is my position on Ukraine is a very good example of my foreign policy politics back then. But I was like, okay, Reagan wants to kick your ass, but Reagan doesn't want nuclear war. No, because Reagan also knew nuclear war, we all die. Does he want to destroy your country? Yes, but I didn't tell him that. I simply, thank you, Evolving, for that. I tried to explain to the guy that, Americans are as worried about you guys as you are about us. And I think what I did in retrospect, thank you, Al, was I think I said, Americans think you want nuclear war. We're afraid that that's what your government wants. And that's a lot of the reason we do what we do, because we think that's what you're doing. And he was kind of like, oh. It was a fun little conversation, but it was still like, and I mean, literally this much taller than me and blonde. And it was just like the Russian out of a storybook. It was just like, very interesting though. All right. Well, that was it for the news. Yeah. So that was it for the news. Let's go and do your questions. And I'm going to keep reminding you about the gifts for the kids, because I know on TikTok and elsewhere, people come and go. I'm doing a special fundraiser for the next week. We are trying to raise money to buy Christmas gifts for kids in Ukraine. The way it works in Ukraine is kids can get gifts for St. Nicholas's Day, for Christmas, but they really get gifts because Orthodox Christianity, at least in Europe versus America, in Europe, Orthodox Christians don't really celebrate Christmas. It's not the big holiday. Whereas in the States, I'm Orthodox Christian, Greek, we do here. They celebrate New Year's Eve, for example. New Year's Eve is the big gift-giving day for Ukrainians, for giving gifts to the kids. So we are going to raise money to buy gifts for kids. The local nonprofit, the local charity that we're working with in Ukraine, that we have been for months now, is going to buy the gifts and deliver them. They've already, Vlad even sent me an example of all the gifts they're looking at for each age group. They figured the whole thing out. They're going to deliver gifts to 2,000 kids. Obviously, they're trying to raise money beyond us, because I doubt we're going to raise enough for 2,000 kids. It's $15 a gift. That's like $30,000. You guys are generous, but I don't expect you to be that generous. There's only so much money, but nonetheless, $15 per gift. So if you get $30, we can buy 2 gifts, and they're going to go and deliver them to the kids. And it's especially focusing on kids who are most vulnerable, kids who have lost their parents, kids who have lost other family members, kids with disabilities or special needs. I'm trying to think. They're going to go specifically to one orphanage in particular that has a lot of the kids. So they've really thought this out nicely in terms of also the kids they're helping, which is so cool. Anyway, it means a lot to me because I like helping. I think the kids fundraisers are the best, and I think the holiday thing is just so great. Thank you, W. Reich, for that. I think doing it for holidays. So if you on TikTok, if you go to my profile, you'll see the link tree link. Click it. And the very first thing, it's a page of links. The very first thing will give you my friend Vlad's PayPal address, who's my Ukrainian friend, who we've done all our fundraising with this year. We've raised over $80,000 for Ukrainian humanitarian aid, 100% of it going to Ukraine. This one as well. Not only am I not taking a dime, I'm literally having you send the money to Vlad in Ukraine, and he's working for the nonprofit and pulling it all together. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it. And there you go. There you go. All right, let me jump and start doing some questions here. One moment. Deep. Questions. Beep. This still makes me laugh. If you can choose a superpower, what will it be? I love that. TikTok tries to give you like questions that you can, that you can talk about in case you don't have any questions. And I said yesterday, my response to that was, I would be America if I could be any superpower. Um, um, Oh, okay, this was from yesterday, I think, but maybe somebody asking today. So, with Russia loading a nuclear missile into a silo, which they did yesterday and bragged about it, what do you think of the chances of them trying to fire it even leaves the ground? Very little chances. And I'll give my short answer to this. But basically, we have enough nuclear weapons, and Russia has enough nuclear weapons that we're never going to fire them at each other because some of the missiles will survive and then we'll fire them back. In other words, let's pretend Russia were to launch that nuclear weapon at us with all of their nuclear weapons, and they launch all of them at once. America has got something like 14, give or take, nuclear submarines. Those submarines have nuclear missiles in them. In other words, nuclear rockets, right? The big, huge, scary rockets. These look like the Apollo rockets. I mean, they're that big of scary rockets, right? Goes across the world, blows up all of Russia. If we were to attack Russia and blow up all of Russia's rockets first, let's say we decided to fire first, Russia's nuclear submarines would survive and they would fire back at us and kill all of us. There is no way that Russia is going to launch a nuclear war against America, and there's no way that America is going to do it to Russia. And for good measure, the French and the Brits also have nuclear weapons, and they are on submarines as well. So that's why it once again, I don't want to say it makes me laugh, but it's obnoxious that the Russians are even doing this and pretending like, look at us launch our nuclear, or not even, look at us prepare our nuclear rocket. It's the thing is, it's just so immature. And I guess to some degree, I think that's what scares Biden. Maybe not scares, maybe that's an unfair word. That's what worries Biden is it's so immature the way the Russians handle this. I mean, no mature country, I never say mature. I know I'm not supposed to mention the guy who owns Twitter right now, so I won't. But it reminds me of him because there's an immaturity to the actions being taken. Okay? Thank you, Slappy. I appreciate that. There's an immaturity to the actions being taken. It is literally as if a child is doing it. A mature country does not sit there and go, watch us put our nuclear rocket in the our nuclear missile in the ground. Here's a video of it. Who does that? I mean, it's weird. I mean, and it's especially weird because we've got nuclear rocket missiles too. So it's like, why would you? I mean, thank you, Alex. To be honest, and this is the one, I'll say something good about Donald Trump. It reminds me of Donald Trump when, I always forget. I will never remember which Kim I'm talking about in Ukraine. Kim, whichever, the leader in North Korea, was talking about like nuking us or something. And Trump turns around and he goes, "Yeah, I've got a bigger nuclear button than you've got." And basically, Trump was right. I mean, maybe with North Korea, you don't say it that way because they are crazy. I mean, North Korea is nuts. But there's an element of Russia trying to impress us because they're so insecure. I mean, who can you imagine if America did that? Like, did you know we have nuclear weapons? I mean, you'd be like, yeah, the whole world's known we've had nuclear weapons for 80 years. Like, yeah. It just sounds weak to me. But I think, I will say this, but I think that may be, thank you for that, evolving. I think that may be what worries Biden, is it's so freaking weird what the Russians are doing with this constant bragging about their nukes. It's so not normal that there's a concern as to whether something else not normal is going on with their thinking. And that in some crazy part of their head, they would think maybe we should use this, right? I don't know. It's very weird. All the fires starting in Russia, who knows? I mean, Bankovich is asking what they're caused by. One thing the Ukrainians have done quite well is you will note that the Ukrainians don't often take credit for stuff, okay? Remember the Kerch Bridge getting blown up? How the Ukrainians still haven't taken credit. All these attacks in the last couple of weeks that have gone inside Russia and attacked like 2 at Russian military bases, a 3rd near a Russian military base. I think it was last week. And the Ukrainians don't take credit for it. Well, a big part of the reason they don't is to play a psychological game. A psychological game with the Russians, where basically they want the Russians to think every time. Oh, thank you, Chelev. I appreciate that. They want the Russians to think every time something goes wrong in Russia, oh my God, it might be the Ukrainians, right? So that there's a fire at a plant outside Moscow, it might be the Ukrainians. There's a fire at a military base in the east, it might be the Ukrainians. It's this way. The Ukrainians kind of get credit for everything by taking credit for nothing. And it's a way of freaking the Russians out so that every Russian military base is now worried, So anyway, thank you, Evolving, for that. I don't know. I wonder to some degree if let's put it this way, knowing the Ukrainians, like special combustion operations, exactly, Vernon. Knowing the Ukrainians, is it possible that the Ukrainians are actually starting fires in like all over Russia? Yeah, it is. They could have teams. They could. I mean, the Ukrainians speak Russian. A lot of Ukrainians speak it as their first tongue. Actually, Vlad, who's my friend that we're always doing these fundraisers with, Vlad grew up in Kharkiv. He lives in Kharkiv, but right now he's in southwestern Ukraine because he fled there with his wife and daughter because he's got a 3-year-old daughter and didn't want the daughter getting bombed every day in Kharkiv. But Vlad told me his first language is Russian. And he didn't start learning Ukrainian until he was 10 years old. And that was because he needed Ukrainian to pass his exams in, I guess, high school or something. So his parents were like, you've got to learn Ukrainian. Ukrainian. But Russian wasn't just his first language. It was the only language he really spoke. So imagine these guys being able to, infiltrate Russia. They could, they could. So maybe they would do a good job of it. So I wouldn't be surprised. That's interesting. Zelensky spoke it as his first language. There you go. Yeah, no, for a lot of Ukrainians, and also my glasses are like falling off me here. For a lot of Russians, a lot of Ukrainians, there's also the issue of there was a bias towards speaking Russian. So a lot of Ukrainians learned Russian because you were considered a redneck or a hick. Those are American slang terms, meaning you were considered somebody from the country, a villager, if you spoke Ukrainian. So a lot of families, the kids didn't want to speak Ukrainian because it would make them sound stupid. They were told it would make them sound stupid, even though of course it didn't, Yep, Leshy's saying, I'm Ukrainian. I wouldn't understand Russian at all as I'm a true blue blood Ukrainian. Now, I'm going to wonder, are you also from Western Ukraine at all? Because one of the things Ukrainians told me too was in the East, I'll show you again in the East, in the East, you're talking, here, people were more likely to speak Russian. Well, it makes sense because guess where Russia is? This is Russia. This border is the border with Russia. So here's Kharkiv. 20 miles from the Russian border. Big surprise that Kharkiv speaks Russian. They're right there, right? Whereas you get to Eastern Ukraine and the prevalence of Russian drops significantly. So there you go. 2 different languages. In any case, there you go. Okay, see, everyone's breaking the stereotypes. I'm from Lviv, which is, I will show, it's Western Ukraine. I speak Russian perfectly. There you go. Lviv is all the way over here. It is in an area of Ukraine that fortunately is free. The only thing is the Russians like to bomb it a lot because it's one of Ukraine's largest cities. Oops, I'll have to adjust these glasses afterwards. They're falling all over the place. All right, what else we got here? Look for more. Oops, sorry. Let me find more here. In the Q&A. Oh, let me look. Although I will say the questions in the Q&A, it doesn't always show me who's asking them. So that's the only thing. But let me look here. I mean, the take on the Griner bout exchange, I talked about that last week. I'm 50-50 on it. I mean, she got taken a week to 10 days before the war started. Back then, I'm certainly more sympathetic towards somebody getting taken then than I would be now. A lot of basketball stars went to Ukraine like this summer. They went to Russia this summer to do what she did. Now, a lot of American sports people, athletes, go and work abroad during the off season because the sports may only go for 4 months, 6 months, whatever. When they're not, when they're not working for the American teams, they go and they work abroad for a foreign team. She was going to do it for, I think, the team in St. Petersburg, Russia. After she was basically kidnapped by the Russians, a number of American sports stars still went, we're talking months into her captivity, still went to Russia to do their little, basketball thing working for the Russian teams. And like one guy, one male, was mostly women, but one male was getting paid like $1 million or something crazy to go do it. I have no sympathy for any of them. As far as I'm concerned, any of them get taken and they're on their own. I mean, I realize we've got to help American citizens who are abroad, but these are idiots who have basically walked into a war zone. And it's not even like they walked into a war zone to fight for Ukraine. That I can appreciate. You go to Ukraine to fight for Ukraine, and I will help you out if you get taken prisoner, right? But you go to Russia, you decided to go work for the enemy and to be paid by them, so you went for money? Zero. I mean, if they take you now, you knew what you were getting into, as far as I'm concerned. With Brittany, I'm a little divided because I'd like to know more about what actually happened. I'd like to know more as to whether, was it really medicinal? Was it really empty so that she didn't, in other words, was it truly just like, oh my God, she travels so much, which I'm sure she does being on an American sports team. She travels so much, and within the States, I guess they don't check your luggage. She would carry this with, and she didn't know it was in her bag. If that's really the case, then I have more sympathy for her. So there you go. Yeah, I don't mind being asked about it. And again, if she didn't do it intentionally, because if she did do it intentionally, then she's an idiot, because everybody knows what happens when you go abroad with any kind of drugs. Everybody knows that. You're going to be in jail for the rest of your life if they don't kill you for taking drugs abroad by airplane. You don't do that. And everybody knows you don't do that. So that's what I'm saying. If it was intentional, then I'm not thrilled about helping her. If it was unintentional, then I am thrilled. Then I do think it was smart. I mean, what do you do? Because in the end, you can't, unless the person's just a horrible person, in the end, you can't not help them. We've got to try to get our people back. The Russian state TV threatened to nuke Yellowstone Park. Oh my God. These people. Yellowstone Park is one of our big national parks. So it's kind of like, what are you going to nuke a bison? I mean, like, I don't get that. Though we say Putin isn't crazy, if he does in fact have cancer or is going to die, do you believe he would be willing to go nuclear to go out big? No. Now, this is a question that's come up before, and here's why. Putin, it's not like dying isn't the end of the story for Putin. Dying is the beginning of the story for Putin. Putin wants to be, and he's even said so, Putin thinks he's the czar, right? That he's the, what is it? Not St. Peter, but who's the, I'm already forgetting now. Peter the Great. Yeah, Peter the Great, right? That he's the, the great czar from the 1700s, and he's going to bring Russia back together again, the great Russian Empire. He wants to be remembered as the hero of Russia that helped bring greatness to Russia by reuniting the lost lands, right? That doesn't happen if on your deathbed you push the nuclear button and you therefore get into a nuclear war that wipes out 98% of your population. No one is going to remember you as the hero, right? And he wants to be remembered as the hero. That's why I think on his deathbed, it doesn't do any. What Putin wants to do on his deathbed is be remembered as the great leader of Russia. He's not a great leader of Russia if he just says, screw it, let's just kill everybody. That doesn't, that's my take on it. That's what I'm saying. If he's not crazy, he wants to cement his legacy in the history books. Also, at his age too. He's 70, but as you get older, you do start to think more about what you've achieved in life and everything else. So that's my thought. Oh, a super volcano? Oh, is that why they're saying it? Is that why they're saying it? They want to blast Old Faithful at Yellowstone so that it causes a reaction or something. They're out of their minds. I mean, they're absolutely out of their minds. Oh my God. Let's see what else we got here. Beep, 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 beep. That's funny. One of these, I'm laughing. One of these questions here that TikTok, I always say this, like TikTok gives you questions in case people don't give questions. So it gives you questions that you can use just in case, right? And one of the questions it gives me that I can use is, what did your parents almost name you? And I remember my mom telling me when I was a kid that she wanted to name me Scott because she thought the name Scott was really nice. And I don't know who somebody told, because my last name is Aravosis. In Greek is Aravosis. And the name would have been Skataravosis, which any of the Greeks watching get it immediately. It would be skata, which I think you guys have heard of that word, which means, SHT in Greek. It's kaka in Greek. So it would be Skataravosis, which I just think is the funniest damn thing. I love that story. But I'm like, oh, that would have been a nice name though, Scott. Scott. She goes, oh, the relatives would have killed me. I couldn't call you Skata. Skataravosis. It really is a great name, though. I love it. But anyway, that was one of the weird questions. Now I'm looking for a real one again. Russia loading the nuke in the silo. Russia or Putin announced that Putin was going to Minsk in Belarus, knowing that would some faction want to assassinate Putin? Maybe. The problem is it would depend who. I mean, even for the Ukrainians, if the Ukrainians were to assassinate Putin, they might just nuke Ukraine. If the Americans were to do it, forget it. I mean, so if any of us, Americans, Western Europeans, were to kill Putin, it would be war. So, unless you could do it, and there's no way they'd find out, but if they found out, it's the end of the world. So I'm not sure you'd do it. I'm not sure you would do it, So yeah, that's and for the Ukrainians, yeah, can I mention you in the video of the Russian state TV? I'm not sure what you mean, TMT. I'm not sure what you mean by that. The Russian state TV. I'm not sure what you mean. You can always mention me. I don't mind being mentioned on social media. This stuff is public. I mean, what I'm talking about, obviously. Let me see. There's a few more little things here. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, hang on. Plug the fundraiser. Yeah, let me plug the fundraiser for the kids. Oh, was that from earlier, or was that? I can do it again. Yeah, before everybody goes, I will tell you one more time before you go, and then I'll do a quick summary of the news, because I like to go sort of the news, doing a recap. But we are doing a fundraiser to help get Christmas gifts for Ukrainian kids. It's Christmas for St. Nicholas Day, Christmas, and then New Year's. New Year's, interestingly, is the big holiday when you give gifts to kids. And we're trying to raise money. $15 gets you one gift for a kid. We're going to be getting basically gift sets. So it's going to have like candy, little toys, for a little kid, it might be a coloring book. For an older kid, it might be a model or a jigsaw puzzle, something like that. And it's $15 a kid. We are going to raise money for the next week. The gifts will be delivered between December 19th and New Year's, because as I said, a lot of the kids get gifts on New Year's. So there's, even though Christmas is almost a week away, New Year's, we got a good 2 weeks, right, for that, which is great. 100% of the money will go for the kids. I'm not taking a dime. Vlad isn't. We will have you guys donate directly to my friend Vlad's PayPal address. Vlad has been working with this nonprofit in Ukraine from the beginning, and we've raised already over $80,000 in the last year from all of my social media accounts. Frankly, most of it is you guys on TikTok and you guys on YouTube. And what else would I say? We've raised the $80,000. I didn't take any of it. And done a lot of humanitarian aid, and we're doing the same process here. So the reason I'm telling you this is you can rest assured that by sending the money to Vlad, this is a proven thing that we've done. Oh, actually, quick update, tangent. the military guys were able to get the car. We raised $4,000 about a month and a half ago to help a bunch of soldiers going to the front get a car. They're doing security for the nonprofit and other work. And they did get the car. Vlad said they've been under attack at the front for a month now, so they haven't been able to do us a video. They did do one quick video showing them under attack that I did put on Discord. There's no way I could get away with showing it on TikTok. And I'm afraid on YouTube, I still might get into trouble because it's bullets flying. But nonetheless, anyway, so this is what we've been doing. So if you want to help out, it's $15 more or less per gift per kid, focusing on the most vulnerable kids that have lost their parents, kids that are orphans, either were or because of the war, kids with disabilities, also like kids from large families. There were kids who are displaced in the country, because you've also got a lot of kids who had to leave. 20% of Ukrainians have had to leave the country. 10% of Ukrainians have had to leave their homes in the country, and they're living somewhere else in the country. So anyway, it's helping all of them. And the way you can do this is on TikTok. Either go to aravosis.com, which is my link tree. You can go to my Linktree link directly in my profile on TikTok and click the link in my profile, and that'll take you to all my links. And the top one gives you Vlad's PayPal address. You'll see it mentions the Christmas thing for kids. You guys already have my Vlad's PayPal for you all on YouTube and everywhere else. And there you go. So if you can help, I would appreciate it. We're going to do it for about a week. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate that. Patty sent 30, 2 kids. If you can help, like I said, I think I love doing stuff like this. I think it's a neat idea. I don't know that we can we're trying to help 2,000 kids. I don't know if we'll raise $30,000, but anything we raise is going to help the kids. So if you can, that would be pretty cool. Thank you. All right, let me do a quick little update. I'll go through the news and just summarize the news we talked about today, and then we'll call it quits. All right. All right. And then tomorrow, as I said, last little reminder, I'm going to be doing a TikTok subscriber only, the paid subscribers on TikTok, a live chat tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Chicago time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Oh, I will definitely update you guys on how much money we raise. What I'll do too is, like, Vlad will fill me in tomorrow. I'll do a video tomorrow telling you guys what the number is, so keep checking my TikTok for that. Oh, I'll absolutely. The stoves are done. The stoves are done. We raised $9,000 for stoves. The stoves are done. All right, let me tell you guys the news of the day. So, as I said, subscriber only TikTok tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. All right. Another massive Russian strike on Kyiv today, 76 missiles. Donate via, actually, mods, if you can help, just to keep telling folks, either aravosis.com, or you can go to my profile on TikTok, and the link that's in the profile that says Linktree, click it. It'll pull up a page. I will show you. Actually, make this easy. I will show you guys. All right. So for the TikTokers, because the rest of you can use aravosis.com, but let me show the TikTokers. So you go to my profile on TikTok, okay? You zoom in, and you see how below where you see Patreon, Discord, and merch. Look at that link that's there, https Linktree/aravosis, whatever. You click that link, and it takes you to my external page of links. And there you go. Look at the very first thing there. Help us buy Christmas gifts for Ukrainian kids. And it simply says donate via Vlad's PayPal. Here's his email for the PayPal. And there you go. That's how you help out. So very simple. All right, let's keep going. The Russians sent 76 missiles today, I believe, at Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine itself. 60 were shot down by the Ukrainians, which is great. There's growing concern that the Russians may be preparing, possibly early next year, end of January or February, in launching another attack against Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, coming from the north through Belarus. A lot more detail, but that was sort of the summary of that. Vladimir Putin and the Belarusian leader are meeting next week in Minsk. I can never say that name. Minsk, the capital of Belarus. A senior member of Russia's Wagner mercenary group was injured in a parcel bomb attack in Africa. They blame the French, but who knows? Vitaly Bulyuk, the deputy governor of Kherson region in southern Ukraine, got blown up in a car bomb. I can guarantee you that was the Ukrainians doing that. The European Union approved new sanctions against Russia today, including components for drones going to Russia and other countries such as Iran. The two final stories. The Polish explosion that happened with the Polish police commissioner, it looks like he got a gift from Ukrainians. The gift exploded, and there was concern that it was sabotage, an assassination attempt. It looks now like the Polish police commissioner. We can go to Discord for a few minutes. Yeah, I'll go to Discord for a few minutes, Callum. Sure. So afterwards, we'll go to Discord for a couple minutes. The Polish police commissioner was given a grenade launcher. Mind you, what a gift. His Ukrainian counterpart, I guess, gave him a grenade launcher, and it was apparently a live grenade launcher. So the Polish police commissioner gets back to his office and decides to fire it and ends up firing the grenade at himself. It blows up. He didn't get seriously injured, but they thought it was an assassination attempt, and now it sounds like it was the Polish police commissioner firing a grenade launcher at himself. It's a crazy story. Why you would give someone a live grenade launcher with a grenade is beyond me. I mean, the whole story is crazy, but whatever. Thank you, Hazel, for that. And the final story, which is a really interesting one, a new poll out of Russia shows that while 3/4 of Russians, so around 75% of Russians, support the war in Ukraine, 69% say Russia, it would never be allowed. It would never be okay. Thank you, blah, blah. It would never be okay for the Russians to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine whatsoever. Whatsoever. Oh, Kursk is going up again. So it looks like Dobrik is saying that it looks like there's more explosions going on in Kursk, Russia, which, if I'm not wrong, Ukrainians correct me. Kursk, I want to say, is up here, right? Sort of opposite Sumy. Am I right? Is Kursk up here? Help me out. I'm taking a guess there from what I remember. I was just doing a quick little look at the news just to see if it's being talked about here. My Ukrainian news sources here. Let's see real quick. Let's see. I'm seeing more Russian attacks here. The alert map is lit up in Central Eastern Oblast, but in Russia, in Ukraine, you mean, though? Yeah. I'm not surprised they're going after Ukraine, but I was just curious if we've got anything on explosions going off in Russia, which would be interesting. Well, not seeing anything here with regards to Russia. So who knows? I'm sure it's true, though. There have been a number of attacks against Russia, and I'm glad. Let the Ukrainians keep doing it. Oh well. All right, guys. I'm going to call it quits. Thank you all, especially you guys, to John and Carlos, for your incredibly generous donations. I will, as I said, I will write myself a note right now. I will to get those to Vlad tonight. So you don't need to get them to me, Roshan, or whoever. I know that those guys put in 200. Close enough. 199.98. But that's very cool. And I will check with Vlad in the morning because they're 7 hours ahead of me here. So it's already 1 a.m. I'll ask Vlad in the morning to do a check on PayPal, and I'll do a video update on TikTok just to let you guys know. But I'm hoping we got some good money already because, who doesn't want to help buy gifts for kids at Christmas? So as I said, last little pitch, go to erevosis.com and it'll be the top link on that page. mylastname.com, erevosis.com. Top link on the page will give you the PayPal address to donate to. And if you can't, $15 gets a gift for one kid. Mom's good. Mom's 93. She's hanging in there, And Sasha's good too. I did a video. If you haven't yet, check out on TikTok the video I did announcing the fundraiser for the kids, because I have Sasha is making a special appearance in the fundraiser. It's pretty funny. Vlad's going to keep track of them. But yes, he's keeping track of all of them. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Or not tomorrow. I'm sorry. I will talk to the TikTok subscribers, the paid TikTok subscribers. Remember, tomorrow for 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, and we'll do our own private coffee talk. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, mods, as always. I did not have to deal with any of the crazies. I'm sure you did. So thank you for that. Oh, here we go. Kelly Fons is saying, last little thing. Thank you, Hazel. I like TikTok's got a lot of cool Christmas gifts, so to speak, that they just launched, which are pretty neat. Explosion in Kursk and air defense active in Belgorod right now. Okay, so the last little thing, as I said, I think Kursk is up here. Belgorod is right over here in Russia. So it looks like the Ukrainians, you know what? Good. Let them take it. Let them take it to the donation isn't working on PayPal. You know what? Go back, double check the spelling. That would be the first thing to tell you. Double check the spelling. That's all I can tell you. But it works. I mean, it definitely works. But Kursk north of Belgorod. That's what I thought. That's exactly. So it is. It's the province that's right, exactly, right north of there. Okay, perfect. That's what I thought it was. Okay, PayPal did work for other people. Good, good. I mean, I send Vlad, his share of the auction and everything else. But anyway, let's go to Discord. Donation does not work for somebody else? That's not good. Well, it worked for some of the other folks. You know what? Last thing I'll do, I will give a $1 donation to Vlad myself just to test it out. Hang on. Well, later tonight, I'll do it anyway to send the $200 you guys gave. Hang on. I will do it right now. Vladislav, $1 test review. Beep, beep, beep. Friends and family, balance, boom. Yep. Just worked. Nope, it's working. It's working. See? Voila. Nope, it works. You just got to get the name. But as I told you see how it spells his name here? It's different in the email. And you just have to get used to that. But make sure you write his name correctly and it works. If you go, it's very easy. Go to aravosis.com. It's got everything there. I've got Vlad's full name written out, and then I've got his PayPal email, which is a little bit different than his full name. So just go there. It's all there. Okay? aravosis.com. Trust me. It'll give you the link of everything. Or TikTok is easier. Go to the link in my profile. The Linktree link in my profile. Just click it. And the very first thing will give you Vlad's all the information, his name and everything else. All right, guys? All right. I'm going to go. Let's go to TikTok for a little bit. All right. Okay. Bye, guys. We'll go to TikTok. Discord. Sorry. All right. We'll go to Discord for a little bit. Thanks again, guys. And thank you again, John and Carlos.